If you have belly fat, if you are sluggish, your energy level just isn't what you think it should be. Stay tuned because this is for you. We're going to keep this short and sweet. I'm Deborah Atkinson. I'm the founder of Flipping 50. And as I prepare for speaking at events, this is just such a hot topic. We talk about strength training, we talk about muscle, we talk about the must do things for exercise with women in midlife and beyond. And actually, if you're lucky enough to be watching this and you are a young woman, go you, because you're going to get through this and sail through it far easier than those of us who might be 50, 60, 70, and beyond, because we didn't know. We didn't have this kind of recommendation. But here they are, 5 signs that you may be losing muscle. You haven't changed anything. If you are exercising, but you didn't change the way you exercise as you went into perimenopause, your menopause transition, or in postmenopause, it looks the same as you did when you were 30. You just keep doing the same thing and you haven't changed your diet. You haven't increased or changed your protein. You're not conscious about doing protein bookending, meaning before and after your workouts. Chances are you're losing muscle. Now, here's the deal, any of these, you should be able to know if you're monitoring. You don't even need to come and listen to this because you've got a smart scale at home, ideally in your bathroom. So you could go in any day of the week. I don't recommend every day, but whenever you are comfortable doing it. If every day doesn't make you obsessed and overly concerned with little fluctuations that will happen to women on a day-to-day basis, try it weekly if that works better for you. Some women I know who I work with do it once a month, but on a regular basis at the same time of day, in the same status, not having exercise, not having eaten, just get up, void your bladder, do it. Checking your lean muscle mass is one of the best things you can do for aging well, for your energy today, for feeling a little bit more confident. Let's face it, life or death does not depend on you looking good sleeveless, but your confidence level does. So there's no judgment there. But if you have not changed anything, you don't have the same stimulus from your hormones naturally that you did. We have to change it. So, case in point, those of you who've been exercising for decades and you're kind of still doing the things that you used to do, it's not enough more stimulus. Whether we're talking about the amount of protein, the when you schedule that protein, the exercise that you're doing, maybe the sets, the repetitions, the kind of resistance training you're doing, if it hasn't changed and it worked when you had a certain set of hormones at your 30s or 20s or even 35 or 40. For some of us, what worked for me at 50 doesn't anymore at 58, 59. It changed dramatically after menopause for me. For some of you, during perimenopause, the flip is like, oh my gosh, because you probably experience more turmoil, maybe more signs and symptoms. Maybe insomnia was worse for you. Hot flashes were worse for you. So you became a little bit less active unintentionally, but you just didn't feel good. So you've got to overcome, okay, how am I doing this? And here's the ticket. The ticket is more muscle mass to help you alleviate hot flashes, night sweats, because we keep your blood sugar levels down. These things are really important. That was not a skunk, by the way. That was the tail of my dog. All right. So, number one, this is one way of knowing if you don't have a smart scale. And my recommendation is go get one. Don't listen to me and these 5 maybes. This is an indication, but go to a gym, get a DEXA scan. They're about $50 depending on where you are and where you go, and or go to a gym that's got a an in-body machine, and there are other brand names out there, but we'll do bioimpedance. You stand on it, you hold on to it. It's super simple. I have one in my bathroom. I think we all need to. Post pandemic, we just need to be tracking this. Otherwise, we're putting ourselves at risk for disability. So that's number one. If you haven't changed anything about the way you eat, the amount of protein you eat, and that ideally has gone up, or the overload, the stimulus, and the way you resistance train. And by the way, doing more is not necessarily better. You have to be in the sweet spot. If you're doing constant resistance training, number one, you may be getting more exhausted, but you're also tearing down those muscles. When we exercise, we're tearing them down, we're not building them up. We get the buildup, the overcompensation during the rest between those two sessions. As older adults, we need a little bit more recovery. So work harder than probably you've done before in your life. Take a longer recovery and get better results, not to mention feel better energetically. Okay, number two, sign you're losing muscle and you need to do something about it is belly fat. So this comes back to, you've heard, if you've been here for a minute, it's cortisol and it's insulin. And when the two of those team up, they deposit belly fat. And cortisol is what? Our stress hormone. And it's also, by the way, our energy hormone. So we do convert, if we don't have enough cortisol, we convert whatever we can. Other hormones can convert to cortisol to give us that boost so that we can do HIIT or we can do a tough strength training workout. But often that backfires. However, there's this, okay? So we've got higher levels of cortisol because our estrogen levels drop. That's your body's kind of magic way of saying, ah, this is coming down, but we're going to need something. And the theory is that cortisol is almost the body's attempt to, as it can be converted and convert into, it's saying, I'm just going to convert into estrogen to make the difference. Well, it doesn't work very well. It only is able to create about 10% of the estrogen. But what we're left with is the storm, the aftermath of all that cortisol. Cortisol causes fat storage. So your body can't both burn fat and store fat. And your body is always going to preserve and say, got to protect you for the rainy day, right? And I know it backfires on us. But if you're working in too much stress, just emotionally, psychologically in your life, and your exercise is causing all that stress, or you're not sleeping, more stress, you're trying to fast, more stress, a little bit of stress on purpose, calculated, works very well. Intermittent fasting at times works very well. Exercise works very well. But doing all things on a regular basis and then ignoring the fact that, oh, we're also caregiving to our older parents and we're in the middle of a real career change in a moment, and thinking we can exercise or should the same way that things are smooth sailing, that's not going to work very well for a woman in midlife. So give yourself a break, that even if you are superhero and you are super strong, it can happen to you. I can't tell you how I know that. I have to do something to you. But this is key. So, what is insulin? Insulin is the rise in blood sugar levels. And again, we are, simply because we're women with hormonal changes and we've gone through them, we're susceptible to higher blood sugar levels. The elevation level, and this is according to our good friend and expert, Dr. Beverly Yates, about 6% of an increase in our blood sugar levels is common at midlife. Now, some women will experience more, some less. Probably depends on your lifestyle. If are you resistance training? Are you avoiding high carbohydrates foods? Or are you instead a wine drinker on an empty stomach? Oof, blood sugar loves that, but the rest of your body, not so much. So these things are really important. But when we've got those blood sugar issues going on, together with high cortisol and stress, that alone also raises blood sugar. The two of them team up, they redeposit fat at the midsection. So even if you didn't gain weight, but you're putting on belly fat, chances are you've lost muscle. How is that tied in? Muscle uses blood sugar. So if you have more lean muscle, it's not just while you're exercising that you're putting that blood sugar to work, you're taking it out of your bloodstream so it won't eventually get to your belly. But every time you move throughout the day, you get up from your chair, you walk down the hall to the restroom, and you go get a drink, and you come back, you've walked and moved more muscle than you would otherwise. You go outside and you go for a walk, you go and swing golf clubs for 2 to 4 hours. And all of that uses the more muscle you have to use blood sugar levels better, keep them stable so it doesn't end up as belly fat. So the more muscle you have, using it in any way, moving throughout the day, but also not moving, even sleeping, your blood sugar level will be better and more stabilized because you have more muscle. Number three, low energy or fatigue. And now, there's a lot of reasons you can have that, right? So if you're struggling with insomnia, obviously you're not sleeping as long, maybe as deep, or it's interrupted. Happens to a lot of women. Doesn't have to, and there are regular things you could do. Number one is exercise, right? But the right kind of exercise. So let's say you've signed up for something that is like, let's burn a crazy amount of calories, and that's what they promise. And they have you doing agility drills. Now, I love agility drills. Why? Because it's going to help you move quickly, reaction skills are going to stay high. And we do lose that with age if we don't pay attention to it. However, you don't want to test your coordination and reaction skills on the morning after a night of poor sleep. So we do want you to move even if you don't sleep. We don't wait for a good night's sleep in order to exercise. We're going to exercise and do it on schedule so that we sleep better the next night. Lots of little tricks about helping you sleep. And one little thing I want to throw out is a lot of women will say at first glance, you know, as I say, exercise actually helps to decrease the frequency and the intensity of hot flashes and night sweats. It's documented in research, and I've shared it many, many times in master classes and in books and in lectures. I can't throw to you, here's the study, here's the science, but it's there. But a lot of women will say, well, it's not working for me. And sometimes here's the reason. Maybe you're still drinking that wine. That's not going to help. Sugar is going to actually trigger more blood sugar. That's going to trigger those hot flashes and night sweats. So they're all tied together. You can in isolation do this one. But the real caveat is all the researchers who will say, who've done the studies on this, that yes, exercise helps decrease hot flashes and night sweats only if the researchers will say, quote unquote, the exercise is of adequate intensity. Middle kinds of exercise, the ones we grew up with in the 70s and 80s, take your target heart rate, be in that zone, don't be too high, don't be too low. Remember all of that? And I apologize because I told you that as a fitness instructor. But the key is we need to get breathless. It's doing high intensity interval training, getting breathless, recovering 100%. And it's doing strength training. To muscular fatigue, it's got to get hard just a little bit at the end of every set. Starting to get hard. I can't complete them all. That's where you're going to get the most benefit. And again, it comes back to, are you stimulating muscle mass, maintaining it, or are you losing it? Okay. Now, so where are we at? Number one, you're in midlife and you've made no changes, or in midlife, if you're post menopause, you made no changes to your exercise and or to your nutrition. Number two, belly fat. Number three is you've got low energy or fatigue. So, yes, it's due to sleep, but your mitochondria, your energy central, if you will, mitochondria production will go down with age if we're not doing something about it. How do we do something about it? There are some supplements, but let's not even go there. Someone asked me recently, how do you keep your energy up? What do you take for mitochondria? I said, well, first of all, I take regular strength training and high intensity intervals, and I go walking regularly. That's number one because I own that. That's me, right? It's free and it takes a little time, but we can do that. Then, yes, I take some things to support, but we know through the proper strength training and nurturing, so we gain lean muscle, we create more ATP that creates more mitochondrial production, more energy. Strength training. gain the muscle. All right, number 4, energy swings. So while you may have low energy or fatigue much of the time, you can also have just highs and lows. You're going up and down. And that is, again, comes back to it's probably a hint your blood sugar levels are just going crazy. So it comes back to the muscle. Muscle will help you stabilize blood sugar like nothing else will, except for maybe one thing. So I'll throw this in fiber. So making sure that you are taking in adequate fiber along with your protein at meals because that will help stabilize blood sugar. And by the way, it will kill your cravings. If you're going on mood swings, my guess is you reach times during the day when you may not be hungry at all. And then it becomes this ravenous, like I have like gnawing in my stomach, like I need to eat like right now. And that to me takes me back to when I was pregnant because I would be fine and finding like I need food now, like now. And I'd never been like that before in my life. But a lot of women in menopause report that same kind of feeling to me. Like ah, like I have to eat, like I need something right now. And it is that you do. You need to probably get in some kind of carbohydrates. You've got to elevate that blood sugar again, but you need fiber and protein to help prevent that from getting there in the first place. And that's going to boost your muscle mass as well. Higher protein, stabilize blood sugar levels. So do both, but that is a sign you're losing muscle. And if you want to help stabilize it, you gain the muscle, you make that your focus. And then, of course, it's what are the actions I need to take to get that muscle? Number 5 is obvious, but you're losing strength. And here's how that shows up. So right now I'm doing this. It's middle of April. So for me, it feels like early summer because I'm in Phoenix. If you're in the middle of the Midwest or the upper Midwest, you may be still, looking at that last snowstorm. But here's the challenge. We want to look at seasonally, you may come back to, all right, now I got the potting soil for the garden. I'm getting that out. But realize it's been a full year since you've lifted that potting soil or you've lifted something heavy. Maybe not regularly enough. You have to be the one to go get the salt pellets or the dog food. And it's like, this didn't seem so heavy last time. Or you've got growing grandchildren and you're picking them up on a regular basis, but it's starting to get harder. You don't see them all the time. And guess what? If they're young, they're growing and they're gaining weight as they should. And for you, you better be getting stronger. But you're noticing that after a day, maybe this is when it used to show up for my mom as she got older. Is say a day of prep in the kitchen. You're getting ready for brunch, and a family meal, and you spend the day in prep in your kitchen, and you find you're tired. You're really exhausted at the end of the day, and your lower back hurts. That all is a sign of you're losing muscle. You're losing strength and doing the same things isn't as easy anymore. Some people will notice it opening up jars, that grip strength. And by the way, don't say grip strength isn't as good and so I need this X, Y, and Z. Grip strength may not be as good, but it's not going to get better by walking around the house squeezing tennis balls alone. The reason we're doing grip strength is because there's a correlation between that and your overall body strength. So don't just do this. There's a correlation between grip strength and longevity, but we're trying to connect the dots with overall strength. So we need pushing, pulling, lower body exercises like squats and lunges if you're able. But there are other substitutes if you're not able because of knees or hips or other things. So no matter what, there is something that you can do. So let me recap. Those things are you're in midlife or in midlife if you're past it, you didn't make any changes to your exercise training and or to your protein intake. Number 2 was you've got belly fat. Number 3, you have low energy or kind of constant fatigue. Number 4 is energy swings. Number 5 is you're losing strength, the probably most obvious to you. I would love to know in the comments which of those, if any, are true for you. And tell me this, answer this question. Do you have a smart scale, either at home, readily accessible, or are you using one at a gym or you're getting a DEXA scan on a regular basis so you know your percent body fat? Hey, I hope that was helpful. Answer questions for me below. Let's keep the conversation going because this is crucial and it's easy. We can gain lean muscle. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to, hit the bell and you'll get notified every time there's a brand new video.